Now back to your host, Robert Sherman, for part 2 of The Listening Room.
Two of the most extraordinary programs we've ever had in this series were with Faubion Bowers, who went through, I think it was the Poem of Fire and the Poem of Ecstasy, reading from Scriabin's notes and the text and all sorts of things. It was a histrionic work of some magnitude. And, well, I'm delighted to say that Mr. Bowers is back, and so is Vladimir Ashkenazy, paying us first visit here in the listening room. And Mr. Ashkenazy, of course, in the midst of his 4 New York Philharmonic performances of the Scriabin Piano Concerto. Faubion, welcome, and tell us what kind of thing you have brought with us. You arrived brandishing 2 tapes and all excited.
Well, I am terribly excited because I have brought really a monstrously wonderful surprise for you. We're going to have the first hearing of the reconstruction of the final work that Scriabin was working on when he died, and he left 57 pages of notes of it and the poetic text. And a young Russian called Nemchin, Alexander Nemchin, who's only 37 years old, has worked and incorporated this and has created the first half, which is called Vselina, Universe. And it is, I think it's better than Scriabin. And I got the tape from Moscow.
That's a fine thing.
That's a terrible thing for me to say, isn't it? But I got the tape from Moscow just yesterday morning at 9 o'clock.
We
So,
just
here we
barely
go.
made it. Now, also since you've been here, you've written another book on Scriabin, which is called The New Scriabin, as opposed to the old Scriabin, I guess. It's published by St. Martin Press, and it has a foreword, a preface, by Vladimir Ashkenazy. So, Mr. Ashkenazy, why don't you tell us, how did you first meet Faubion Bowers? What is your connection?
Do you remember? I'm not.
Come in a little
so
bit to
sure.
the mic.
Well, at first I bought his first book. Actually, here I'm plugging you, but that's true. I found in some catalog or other of some publishing house there was a 2-volume book on Scriabin which I bought, and that was Faubion Bowers. And then I had a note from Faubion a few months after that asking me for an interview or something like that, and I knew who he was. And then we met for an interview. So that's how it started.
Mr. Ashkenazy, let's go a little further back. When did you first start playing the music of Scriabin? Was this all your life?
Well, it isn't so much as when I started playing the music of Scriabin, but when I first got acquainted with it. You know, in Russia, Scriabin is a major part of national music heritage, so you know the music from as early age as you can remember. And although I think I played the second sonata when I was 13 or 14 or something like that, but I didn't play anything serious at that time by Scriabin, only his early pieces, short pieces, and I really didn't know what it was all about in any case. But then I had a period of Scriabin mania.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and almost no one escapes this period of Scriabin mania amongst youngsters, musical youngsters, I should say, in Russia. So it's about the age of 16 to 18 or something. I remember I spent weeks in the Scriabin Museum listening to various tapes of performances of Scriabin music. So, and then I started playing more the Fifth Sonata and more complicated pieces.
You've recorded the piano concerto and also Prometheus, but I understand that there's another disc about to come out, or at least been
Yes.
completed. What's on that?
That one will include his sonatas number 3, 4, 5, and 9. And I will, of course, record the other sonatas later on because I like the music very much. I'm not a specialist on Scriabin, I simply like his music very much in a certain way. I like his music as much as I like in a different certain way music of Chopin or Beethoven.
Faubion Bowers, we've had conversations about Scriabin interpretations. Do you think that a person has to be a specialist in order to get the most out of Scriabin?
Mr. Ashkenazy is the perfect example. The well-rounded musician who, in addition to being a total musician, has an affinity for Scriabin. That is the perfect thing. One of the tragedies is, in the old days one used to be so grateful if anyone played Scriabin. Now that everybody plays Scriabin, Scriabin has been more damaged by bad performances than any composer I know. So it's
Why?
a god...
Is he more susceptible to bad performances?
I think this is one of the great mysteries about Scriabin, which I have never understood. Bad Chopin, you still know it's good music. But when Scriabin is badly played, it's just awful. And when it's marvelously played, like Mr. Ashkenazy's Scriabin performances at Philharmonic Hall this week, when it's marvelously played, you think, my God, what glorious music. So.
Fascinating. Now, supposing I take care of one commercial, or two maybe, one will do, and then we're going to head into your discovery here. So why don't we have our weather report and word about a fellow named Brahms.
It's 39 degrees and partly sunny, but the forecast calls for a partly cloudy afternoon with a chance of a few brief snow flurries, the high around 40. The weather service from Trattoria, serving everyone from secretaries to celebrities. Great takeout service, too. Pan Am Building, M01 3090.
Brahms' First Symphony. From the new Deutsche Grammophon recordings of all 4 Brahms symphonies, superbly conducted by Claudio Abbado. They won't be available in any store for months, and even then they will have a suggested list price of $27.92. But right now you may preview them free for 10 days, after which you may return them or keep them and pay only $6.98 plus postage. That's all 4 records for the price of 1. You'll also be enrolled in the International Preview Society and receive other exciting new albums to preview at home free, months before the public. Keep only those you wish at big savings. Cancel anytime. Here's how to receive all 4 Brahms symphonies for only $6.98.
Send no money now for this introductory offer. You just write Brahms, WQXR, New York 100336. I always think that's a rather odd thing to do, but you'll get all 4 of his symphonies for only $6.98. Maybe he'll send you a postcard back. Who knows? All 4 Deutsche Grammophon recordings for the price of 1. So write to Brahms, WQXR, New York 10036, or if you can't wait, telephone him at UN17307. That's UN17307. My guests today, Faubion Bowers and Vladimir Ashkenazy. Mr. Ashkenazy, I was astonished to hear you say, not really astonished because it's going around these days, but interested to hear you say that you would love to conduct Brahms' First Symphony.
Oh, that was simply a slip of my tongue.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because a lot of pianists have branched off into conducting these days. And
I'm not planning to do that.
You're not.
At all,
it's
no.
not in the cards. Huh?
No.
I was wondering. I thought maybe we'd had a scoop here.
No.
Now, Faubion Bowers, you mentioned before. I think you better say it again for the benefit of any listeners who
have tuned in late.
Yes. What it is you have received from Moscow on the last plane in.
A tape of a rehearsal of a unique performance, a single performance of a reconstruction by Alexander Nemtin.
How do you spell that?
Nemtin of Scriabin's incompleted, barely sketched final work called Prefatory Action.
Prefatory Action?
Yes.
Is that your translation?
Yes, it could be called.
Is there another one
Ashkenazy thinks I should say preliminary action. But, it was to preface the mystery, the mysterium, which was to blow the world up. You see, Scriabin believed in synthesizing all of the arts in one, which would start up such vibrations all over the world that the world would be destroyed, the universe would be destroyed, and a new race of men, a better race of men, could evolve. And this is the preparation for that. Now, this is 55 minutes long, and it is...
This is just the first section is 55 minutes long.
The first section is 55 minutes long. The second section is being worked on and is not yet completed. And this first section is called Universe. And he, the composer, has taken from the text of the prefatory action 4 little lines as the clue, the epigraph, the clue, the key to this composition. And perhaps Mr. Ashkenazy would read in Russian, and then I'll do the translation
This is
immediately.
Scriabin's own
Scriabin's
poem.
own poetry,
Right.
which in the next section of the prefatory action will be sung
I
by
see.
bass and sopranos and huge choruses.
Right. All right, Mr.
You know,
Ashkenazy, will you?
Yes, sure, I will. You know, his verses weren't all that great. You know, he
I
wasn't a
object.
great- no, well, he wasn't. Well, you know, he never meant to be a great poet. You
But-
see, this is rather a kind of description of his music, but not poetry on its own. You see.
You don't think this is
So-
beautiful as poetry, the 4 lines you're going to read?
Well, they're all right, but I don't think they're great Russian poetry. And those Russians that might listen to this will realize that it sounds very nice, but it isn't great poetry. In any case, here I am, a Russian. Мгновенье пыл рождает вечность, лучит пространство глубину, мирами дышит бесконечность, объяли звоны тишину.
The ardor of the instant gives birth to eternity, lights the depths of space. Infinity breathes with worlds, ringing sounds envelop silence.
the opening portion of Universe, which is part of the piece that, you call it prefatory action, right? Part of the last massive work that Alexander Scriabin was working on at the time of his death. This a reconstruction by Alexander Nemtin, a young Russian composer, musicologist, and Faubion Bowers, Vladimir Ashkenazy are my guests today. Mr. Ashkenazy, what is your first impression? This is the first hearing for you, as I guess for everybody else in the
world,
out of
outside
Russia,
of...
right?
Well, one should qualify one's impressions. First of all, it's only the first 10 minutes, and the work is 55 minutes. So
Right, indeed.
But what
we
I
won't hold
hear-
you to it.
yes, what I hear is very beautiful, and I'm enjoying myself immensely. But also, you mustn't forget that a first hearing is always has a special magnetism to it, special quality. First is first, and you are aware of the fact that it's the first time you're hearing the work.
Yes.
So maybe my impression will be even less favorable later on. But at this moment, I'm very excited. I think it's beautifully done. It sounds very much like Scriabin, of course. The language is advanced. It is the next step after the Prometheus and after his last prelude. The work that this man must have done is absolutely tremendous.
I mean, this Nemtin.
Yes,
Nemtin.
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 As one of his friends writes to us, it was titanic work, of course it was. It's incredible.
Faubion, again, you said there were 57 pages of notes. Do you mean
Musical sketches,
musical sketches?
from which this man has drawn.
So the thematic ideas were in some fragmentary form, at least.
Yes, every passage of that is documentable on those 57 pages.
So it's not just a piece in the
Oh,
alleged
no,
style
no.
of. This is
No.
actually evolving from the original pieces.
From the sketches.
Fascinating. All right, we're going to hear more of this tape. Incidentally, what is? Where is it heading? Is it going to be put on recordings? Do you know? Is it going to be available here?
Well,
let's give the performers at least, eh?
Yes.
of
Is it
course.
Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra, yes?
Yes, it's the Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra.
Conducted by Kondrashin, yes,
Kirill.
Kondrashin, who is well known in this
Yes.
country. And the piano part is played by a young pianist by the name Alexei Lyubimov, who is probably not very well known here.
I don't know the name.
He's a very good pianist indeed.
And Faubion, is it planned for release as far as you know? I mean, is it going to be put out?
Well, I plan coming back to the Bob Sherman show and just playing the whole thing one day in the future. And I'm also going to make 2 half-hour television shows out of this, using this tape as the basis of the music, and then have a sort of avant-garde film man do plasmic gases and the formation of the world as it evolves.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Anything.
How come you got this tape? I mean, there's one tape in the whole world, and how come they sent it to you?
Well, my stock is very high at the Scriabin Museum in Moscow because I wrote a book about Scriabin.
You wrote 2 books about it.
I wrote 2 books. Yes,
If
one.
you
The most
count-
recent
If you
is.
if you count it in 2 volumes, we got 3, right? So,
Yes. And it's curious, the world of Scriabinists, they're very loyal to one another. And they stick together. It's almost like a brotherhood.
very good. That's certainly appropriate for Scriabin, right? Let's take our final intermission, and then we'll be back, and we also will hear the finale of this Universe piece by Scriabin, and all that following our news break.
The top story at 11:33 from the WQXR newsroom. The United States Supreme Court voted 6-3 today to give police broad authority to conduct a complete search of anyone they arrest lawfully. News headline service from Dannon Yogurt. Dannon, 98 to 99% fat-free, 100% natural.
Ah, December in New York City. The beautiful windows, the tree at Rockefeller Center, and the beautiful people, too. It's an exciting time of year, and this year it's even more exciting now that the first annual Wine and Cheese Festival is here. Imagine wines and cheeses to see and to sample from all over the world. The festival is a perfect place to go as a kind of December celebration. It's right over at the New York Coliseum, And not only will you sample Burgundies and Champagne, but wines of all types from all over the world and all kinds of cheese. You'll get some great gift ideas, too. There's a wine and cheese store from the year 2001, an actual vineyard, and lessons on how to cook with wine. And you know the tickets are only $3.50 each, so bring a friend.
And the place to bring a friend, the New York Coliseum for the International Wine and Cheese Festival, today through Sunday, December 16th, 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Of course, with all that wine there, no one under 18 admitted without a parent.
Excuse me, Miss,
Yes, sir. I see you've come to do your Christmas shopping at Fortunoff, where we have the world's largest selection of jewelry, silver, and Seiko watches.
Yeah, that's right, a Seiko watch. That's what I'm here for. I've got a Mickey Mouse watch now, but I don't want to trade it in. But I do need something for my job.
Well, we have a Seiko watch for every occupation. Now, if you're a deep-sea diver, we have just the thing. Here's a diver's watch.
No.
A nurse's watch?
No.
Well, do you travel? We have a world timer watch that tells you what time it is anywhere in the world.
No.
We have a tremendous selection of Seiko watches for every occupation. And if your Seiko needs adjustment or service, just bring it right here to our Fortunoff Service Center, and it'll be fixed usually while you wait. What is your occupation?
Well, I'm a sleep tester for a mattress company.
Well, I have just the thing. A Seiko alarm watch, see?
That's great. I'll take it. I have to go now. Oh, late for work.
Yes, sir.
Fortunoff, Westbury, Long Island, and Fortunoff East 57th Street between Park and Lexington, and soon Paramus, New Jersey. My guest this morning, Faubion Bowers, who's written another book about Scriabin called The New Scriabin. St. Martin's Press has put it out, and Vladimir Ashkenazy, who has been playing the Scriabin Piano Concerto here with the New York Philharmonic, and will do so again tonight at 7:30, after which you beat it for Iceland, right?
I'll try to.
You try if you can make the plane. Faubion, tell me quickly, what's the difference between your old Scriabin and your new Scriabin? I mean, you didn't find what it...
Well, there were lots of mistakes in the old one, which have been corrected in the subsequent editions. But this newest book that they call the New Scriabin simply brings up to date, because you see, it's so awful being a writer. You no sooner write something than all kinds of new information come in.
So where would new information come about a man who died so long ago?
Well, the Soviets have released more and more as they grow braver and braver, and as more and more Scriabin becomes more and more highly respected. So there were a lot of details that I simply didn't know at the time I wrote the other book, minor things. And also, this new book is really so that students, you see, it's the students who are suffering from Scriabin mania, as Ashkenazy says, and they can't afford $25 for the 2-volume book. And so this book is something that people in less affluent circumstances can afford.
I must also say, in defense of Faubion, that 1972 was the Scriabin's year, and his first book, of course, came way before that year.
Right,
yes,
right.
And now his book was, in fact, the first attempt to make a thorough study on Scriabin in the West. So now, as a first, he had great difficulties in getting the material, and the Russians, if they don't know about somebody, about a person much, in the West, they will never cooperate. So I don't know whether you have tried to get information out of Russians or not, but probably you didn't succeed very well with them, because you weren't well known. Now, with the second book, they will already know that he has written one book and he spent so much time on that and everything. And with the Scriabin's year, and much more information, as Faubion said, has been released in Russia in 72. Beautiful books and collections of articles appeared. And they would send him all that he needs now, because he wrote one book, you see. So
you have to know the psychology of this in order to get your information.
Yes. So I'm sure.
So when you write your third book, you'll have it just shovel it out.
There is no third book. I have said everything I have to say about Scriabin.
No, you haven't. You have a new piece that you haven't
right.
discussed, right?
That's right.
Maybe you'll need a sort of...
Oh, no. In both books, I go in great detail as to what Scriabin envisaged this piece to be. But I never dreamt that anyone would ever do it, and he's obeyed every suggestion that Scriabin ever made in conversation about how he projected this prefatory action to the end of the world.
Do you know anything about this Niemtin?
No, I'm afraid I've never heard his name.
He's 37
First
years
time.
37 years old. He's a pupil at the was a pupil at the Moscow Conservatory under Chulaki, a rather conservative official,
Yes, kind
heavy
of a
type.
Party hack.
All right. Now we will return to this music now, the prefatory action in the universe section of it, and we're going to skip now to the end of this universe section. Is that correct?
Right. You're
What are we
very, very
missing?
kind engineer. Oh, you're missing a huge piano part. It's almost a concerto.
Sorry, Mr. Ashkenazy. Better luck next time.
Oh, it's much more important we play this new piece in any case.
But
So your kind engineer sort of guessed 10 minutes from the end so that we can have another 10 minutes.
if our kind engineer guessed wrong, we're all in trouble here. But we have great faith in him. So this will be the final section of Universe by Alexander Scriabin.
And
Yes.
Alexander Niemtin.
Boy, that's something. The first hearing on this program on WQXR in the United States, in outside of Russia, it seems. First hearing of portions of Universe, which is the last piece of unfinished work of Alexander Scriabin. It has been reconstructed from the sketches by Alexander Niemkin and brought to us by Faubion Bowers. So, wow, thank you very much.
I thank you for the privilege of being allowed to give it to the public, and also I'm terribly pleased that Ashkenazy can hear it today.
Yes, again, do you have any further thoughts now that you've heard the last 10 minutes?
Everything signifies that this is a fabulous piece. Marvelous.
Yes,
I want to hear all of it now.
Exactly, there's an excitement to it, and a sense of discovery, because when you get a major work of this sort that you know nothing about, that doesn't exist until now, it's
and
it's
I think
thrilling.
it stands in its own right. I think it's absolutely thrilling.
Again, we should say the performers, the Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra and Chorus under Kirill Kondrashin, the pianist Alexei Lyubimov. And the one thing we did not get to do on this program is to play Vladimir Ashkenazy's recording of Scriabin. Two reasons. One, the new recording of the sonatas hasn't arrived yet, and the other recording of the piano concerto you're playing tonight at 7:30, and you said you can't bear the thought of hearing it again.
Just right.
So,
besides, it was much more interesting to listen to this marvelous piece.
this is an extraordinary premiere.
But I would like to interrupt, Bob, and say that the Ashkenazy recording of the Skydiving Concerto with Scriabin's Prometheus on the other side is one of the finest records I have ever heard in my life.
Well, you know what? We will play it tomorrow, because we'll have a little time tomorrow morning. So how about that? We'll make up for it. We'll play it tomorrow morning. You'll be back in Iceland, but at least we can enjoy it. So
no
we'll
comment.
do that.
No comment on my part.
Mr. Ashkenazy, one thing I did want to ask you: the scores of Scriabin, the late works, are so full of the mysticism, the phrasing, the markings that tell you that how they should be played with all sorts of exotic instructions. How much attention do you play to that when you pick up one of the late piano works of Scriabin? Do you have to get into that mood, or is it just something that you put aside and you play the piece as you would any other work?
To his markings?
Yes.
Well, the answer to this would be that you have to immerse yourself in the world of the composer you're playing in any case, right? So Scriabin, in fact, helps you to be immersed in his world by giving so many markings, you see. So that's a kind of a help. Of course, you have to take notice of that.
But the markings are so
unusual.
Unusual and seemingly
So,
unaccomplishable. I don't know, Faubion, what were some of those markings that are...
Well, Vova, what do you do with l'épouvante surgit, the frightening appears?
Well, you've got to feel it, and
You've got to
have
feel scared?
Reproduce it. Yes, of course you do. You have to.
Et de plus en plus empoisonné, more and more.
More and more, in a sense, poisoned by luxury, right? Poisoned by some repose, usually. It's perfume poisoning, if you want. You see? Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, you have to feel it. That's all one can say. You know, when you will listen to the performance, you might not hear exactly that I was frightened or anything, you know, but something will come through which is impossible to put in words. But you know, let's not exaggerate things. When I play Mozart or Beethoven, I try to immerse myself in Mozart's or in Beethoven's world, and I of course pay greatest attention to all the markings there. There'll be fewer of them, but here there are more of them, so it helps. That's why it's so important to have them. Why not? You know, interpretatively it helps.
When you play a recital, though, when you will play a Mozart work and a Chopin piece and a Scriabin sonata, however it develops,
Yeah.
can you reset your own psyche that quickly? Can you go from one piece to another and
Oh,
enter each world?
Of course, yes. I think yes. I think I can.
You
At
have
least I
to.
try to, you know. But if you ask a great actor, for instance, you know, how were you able to, you know, today you're acting this Hamlet, tomorrow you're acting that, yes, something different.
But at
Well,
least
that's
he's got
again-
a day in between. You have to go with the time it takes you to go out, bow a few times, and come back again, and then from Mozart you're into Brahms.
Yes,
So-
but there's also great preparation for it, you know,
True.
practicing and thinking and everything
Right.
helps.
It helps. Thinking does help in all fields, I'm afraid. It's a
I quite agree.
necessary item. Well, again, Vladimir Ashkenazy, it has been a particular joy for us to have you here.
Thank you.
You're hard to catch because you come through here and then you're off again. But we're very, very pleased to get your thoughts and ideas and even this off-the-cuff evaluation of the piece that you heard with us for the first time.
Great pleasure.
We remind our listeners that Vladimir Ashkenazy is playing the Skydiving Piano Concerto tonight at 7:30 with the New York Philharmonic. And Faubion Bowers, who is the author of the new Scriabin, St. Martin's Press, you're also going to be on CBS, I'm told.
Television on Sunday at 11 o'clock with the Pakistani dancers.
What does Pakistani dancers have to do with Scriabin?
Well, I spent a third of my life in Asia, you know.
That's right. You wrote all
Scriabin
sorts
is
of
only
things about
part of my life.
That's only
Music.
part.
And it isn't far from India where the mystery was supposed to take place.
Where this very piece you heard today was supposed to be played at the foot of the Himalayas.
That's true.
See, I knew we'd catch up with it. Again, Faubion and Vladimir Ashkenazy, many, many thanks. Great, great continued success to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Tomorrow,
you, Bob.
my guests, we have a special treat. Tomorrow morning at 10:06, Victor Monge and Gene Davies, two flamenco guitarists, will be here with guitar. So it should be an interesting hour. And then at 11:06, among other things, we will hear the Scriabin Piano Concerto played by Vladimir Ashkenazy. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow morning here in the listening room.